Okay, call the meeting to order. Join me for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Not connected, it says.
Hard to get back.
Okay, welcome everybody. We'll start with the roll call.
Callahan is excused. Houston,
Here.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Here.
Crusader,
Here.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen.
Here.
Need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Next, we move to public comments. Does anybody fill out a comment card that they...
Nothing I can see, Mayor.
Okay, you don't have anything either? Okay, move on then to the consent agenda. I need a motion to accept and approve the consent agenda that approves the following the minutes of the October 9, 2023 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Next, we move to the financials. First, I need a motion to approve the claims for payment.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Next, we move to the revenues and expenses to date. That's for information only. Anybody have any questions with regard to that? Hearing none, we'll move to the transfers. That, again, that's information only. Anybody have any questions or information about that? Okay, moving on, we'll move to item 9 on the agenda, which is the hearings and ordinances. We have a first reading. I need a motion to approve the first reading of an ordinance that amends the provisions pertaining to zoning code, Article 17 for signs.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Okay, with regard to...
You don't either?
Sorry? With regard to the sign ordinance, as all of you know, but some of the people in the audience might not know, previously we had some issues with some of the signs in terms of whether or not they were compliant or not, and we decided that we would take all of the signed ordinances out, send them through the attorney to committee. Planning and zoning came back with information to us. This is now our opportunity to see what they've done and make any changes that we think are necessary. One thing that I would like us to talk about is on Section 1703 under public decency. It says all graphics and lettering displayed on electronic signs shall meet the public decency standards. I'd like us to consider striking the word electronic so it's all signs, because we could have billboards just as well as electronic signs that might not be something that we would want to have in the city itself. Now again, I'm not certain about, depending upon what it was in First Amendment, I'm not sure how that would play.
That's
But-
my concern.
But I would rather have something like this in play so that we have the ability to make a decision and the ability to object to something than to not have something there. So anyway, I would like to see us strike the word electronic so that it applies to all signs and not just electronic signs. Other discussion with regard to any of the other provisions of this?
No, it looked pretty clean when I read it.
Yeah, one of the other things that I liked was in 1713, we've got the removal of certain signs. We have the new sign, Hardick has now turned it to white as opposed to the Hardick name on it, but I don't think they plan to take it down, and I think at some point we may need to decide whether or not we want to require that to be removed or not. But again, that's not for now, but something that I noted in the ordinance itself. The other things they cut in the 17.19, which is the ground signs, which is all of those billboard signs and the other types of signs there. I think that was well written. I think it took care of the 20-foot requirement that we had before. I think it also took care of the no sign within 200 feet of the street frontage, and maximum of 3 signs on the lot. Also the setback lines that we talked about before. So I didn't see anything else that jumped out at me that I thought we'd need to worry about. Does anybody else have anything else that they'd like to talk about with regard to it?
I didn't see anything that stood out.
I think it followed all the guidelines that we set forth when we sent it to them.
I think so, too.
Issues, so.
In fact, I like that. I'm just concerned about who's going to determine what's decent and what's indecent.
Well, you are. It's as the Supreme Court says, it's in the eye of the beholder, right?
Yeah,
I know it when I see it.
that's right, yeah.
The way I would envision that working is the staff, city staff would say that something is not decent. If the person who has it wants to challenge that, then they would bring it to the council for consideration, and this would be the review body for that.
Okay.
That's how I would envision that working.
And that's, I felt that probably was the,
Yeah.
So we have a motion and a second. In terms of, Mike, I think it was your motion. Would you object to having,
Prasada.
Brian,
No objections to it.
to the change that I had, to strike that word, to strike the word electronic? And the second was from whom?
Kathy.
Kathy, you have any objection to doing that?
I don't have a problem. I didn't even catch that when I read through it.
Okay, so the current motion then that's before us now is to approve the Planning and Zoning Article 17 signs with the change that we made, striking the word electronic from Section 17.03. That'd be a roll call vote then. Sorry.
Houston,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Prasada,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Okay, now we have an optional here in terms of whether to consider this for total passage tonight versus waiting until it's had 2 council meetings prior. Because we only have 6 members, though, if any one of you would be objecting to that, then there's no reason to make the motion. So is anybody here that would be inclined to object to waiving the prior, waiving 2 more meetings before the sign ordinance would be voted on for final approval?
Which ordinance?
The sign ordinance that we just talked about.
Oh. I don't.
Okay, well then,
I'll make a motion to
Wait this.
to waive the second and third reading and go ahead and pass it with the correction that's made.
That's a separate.
okay,
Second it.
okay. So then we would, that'd be a roll call vote then, and what you're voting on now is only whether or not to waive the additional 2 readings before council before we can consider it, okay? Roll call then.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Prasada.
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Houston.
Yes.
Now I'll make a motion to approve it as read with the correction.
Second?
Okay, again, that's any further discussion with regard to that then? Okay, then roll call vote then.
Moore,
Yes.
Prasada.
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Houston,
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Passes 6-0 then. All right, moving on then to resolution number 10. This is a motion to approve a resolution to assess the property owner for Chapter 52 mowing of properties for failure to comply and authorize the mayor to sign the resolution. First, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion with regard to this? This is 812 10th Street Northeast. The amount is $308.53. If there's no discussion on it, then we'll move to a roll call vote.
Prasada,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Houston,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Passes 6-0. Next, we move to item 11 on the agenda. This is the mutual aid agreement with the Owine Police Department. I need a motion to approve the mutual aid agreement with the Owine Police Department and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement and the resolution.
So moved.
I have a motion and
Second.
a motion and a second. I know we talked about this at the work session. Does anybody have any further discussion with regard to it? I believe that when we talked about it at the work session, the cost of this would be nominal. It's something that we normally would do with other jurisdictions. I think Dave was very much in favor of it.
I think Chief gave us an excellent synopsis of what it would look like.
I agree. I agree. Other discussion then about it? Hearing none, we'll move to a roll call vote then.
O'Laughlin, Jensen,
Yes.
Houston,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Prasada.
Yes.
Okay, passes 6-0. Next, we move to item 12 on the agenda, which is I need a motion to approve a resolution to accept the work covering the 2023 street rehabilitation project and authorizing the mayor to sign the resolution.
So moved?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Okay, you saw the memorandum from Susie. The total project cost as certified was $348,424.36. Of that, $94,251 is to be specially assessed. So the motion that you'd be voting on is whether to approve this resolution and authorizing me to sign the resolution. So any further discussion with regard to that? Hearing none, we move to a roll call vote then.
Jensen,
Yes.
Houston,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Crusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Passes 6-0. Next, we move to item on the agenda number 13. This is a similar topic, but I need a motion to approve a resolution that confirms and levies the special assessments, directing that the same be certified to the Buchanan County Treasurer and directing publication and mailing of the notice at an interest rate of 4%, all required by Section 384.60 of the Code of Iowa. So first, I need the motion.
So moved?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion with regard to this. The only thing that we're really changing here from what we talked about before is just the fact that we're filling in the blanks that the code requires us to do, one of which is the 4% on the interest rate. Any further discussion with regard to that topic?
No, for the public that's watching, this is typical of, since we started the street rehab, what, 7 years ago, Deb?
Something like that.
7, yep.
So this is unchanged, so if there's any questions, this is how it's been since its inception.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, this is a roll call vote then.
Houston,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Crusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Passes 6-0. Next, we move to item number 14 on the agenda. I need a motion to approve a resolution to assess the property owners for Chapter 90 Water Service System and authorize the mayor to sign the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. This is, let me get the right address here. 611 3rd Avenue Northeast, and the amount is $972.50. This is a water system. Apparently, it's my understanding that there was a break in the pipe, and they just neglected it and never fixed it, and the water just continued to run. So that's why the purpose of the fine in this particular instance. Other discussion with regard to that? Catherine, you look puzzled.
Well, that had to have done a lot of damage.
The house is pretty much trashed to begin with.
Been
but-
vacant for a couple years.
Yeah, the water went all into the basement itself. And so, further discussion? Have a roll call vote then?
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Crusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Houston.
Yes.
Passes 6-0. Next, we would move to item number 15, which is a motion to approve a submittal of a host town application to RAGBRAI for the 2024 event, indicating that, yes, we want to file the application, and yes, we want to have be a host town.
So moved?
So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. We have to do this in either the affirmative or the negative, so we've made the motion in the affirmative, so this is to pass this. We probably would want to fill out an application no matter what. The question is, are we checking the box, yes, we want to host overnight, or are we checking the box, no, we don't want to host overnight? So depending upon what happens with this motion, there could be a second motion that would be involved in filling out the application, but not agreeing.
I would ask that the local Nikki come forth and provide us with.
Sure.
I don't have all the answers, but Fred's here now, and he has a lot more than I do, so.
Fred, would you join her?
You waiting for me?
Well, do you have questions, or do you want us to?
What are the positives of having RAGBRAI accepting this? And
Oh, a lot of it's awareness of the community, economic growth for the community possibly. The impact of that day is a big economic day of it. It's kind of like all the projects that you do within the community. It builds more awareness in town from our own people, of what's going on. I mean, it was the RAGBRAI, the first one I was involved here was 2007, and then we did it, I also co-chaired it in 2014. I'm not chairing it this year, by the way. I'm a behind-the-scenes guy. But anyway, from that, if you look at a lot of the people that are on the fair boards, the school boards, the Celebrate Indy Committee, a lot of them were kind of brought up through that, and vice versa a little bit, but we created better volunteers because of it. And as a community as a whole, there was a lot more people involved with that for different reasons. The churches, it's amazing how many of the, picking on church ladies, but say, when are you going to do that again? It was a great fundraiser. And the scouts and anybody you look at who...
Yeah, I helped with the fundraising organization. It was phenomenal. It exceeded my expectations by 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
That we made the money we made.
The biggest problem people have is they try to overdo it. But as long as you don't do that and understand if you got 100 seats, you can only fill it 3 times instead of trying to make enough food for feeding them all because you can't.
Right.
Then you do well. Throwing away food's the worst thing they can do. And, some people get a little greedy and do that, but hopefully through the process, we educate them all. We only had 2 the first time and 1 the last time that got there. But other than that, everybody done well. Funding-wise, obviously for the city, the biggest expenditure they really have is the police department. That isn't as big as it used to be because of the support of Highway Patrol that we have coming through. There's a bigger regime, a group of Highway Patrol that are assigned to it than it used to be. So they work along with the city and with the Sheriff's Department and all that stuff, which really help that and help reduce a lot of that. Ambulance, we've got a different ambulance group than what we had at that time. At the last 2 times, the ambulance, the way they handled it was perfect. They set it up in 4 corners of the community, and response time was almost none. I mean, it was great. I mean, anytime you have 13, 15, maybe 20,000 people show up in your town, there's dilemmas. There's no doubt about it.
Brett, how many ambulances did they have?
Last time they had it set up where they had one at the hospital, and then one was setting over basically where River's Edge is, and one was on the other side of, across, down around where the Veterans Park is, and there was one down there at the park. And the way that worked is if they had a call, they could dispatch that person, and they didn't have to get through town, through traffic and all that to get there. And they had their route set up to go around town to miss Main Street and miss the bulk of the people to get back and forth. And it really, I mean, in '07, we had a gentleman pass away, drowned in a river, but their response time from the call to there was 2 minutes.
Okay, but my concern about the ambulance is that, you know, our current contract, they only have 1 ambulance that's full-time, and then they've got a second one that's for on-call status. How much more is it going to cost us in terms of the contract, because to have them have 2 more?
How that worked the last 2 times, I'm not saying it's going to work that way this time, but we as a committee contacted the ambulance company and got them to donate the ambulance service, the extra ambulance service. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there's a really good chance that it will. It's amazing what you can get if you ask for it, and if you put a badge on it like RAGBRAI, it seems...
But as of today, we don't know that's going to happen, right?
Rep Wolfpool and Chris Hare this morning at the supervisors meeting also did tell us that RAGBRAI now travels with 2 ambulances. So once they come into our town, they will be 2 ambulance services. So
Did the county supervisors vote on this today?
yes,
What was their vote?
they voted for supporting it.
Yeah.
We do already have 10 letters of support for, Fred was really on it, so.
Okay, and you also told me when we met about this about a week ago or so, at that time you told me that there were going to be three heads to the leadership, is that right?
So it'll be the Chamber, Tourism, and Economic Development, and I think Lisa sent you guys an email today that she couldn't be here, but Economic Development is all for it. We figured 3 organizations heading it up is better than just one of us trying to do it.
So that's 4 entities that are involved in it.
3.
Well,
Well,
the city.
yes.
You're not counting us with you, we
Well,
say 3?
yeah, sure.
Well, when you count that, what I'm
Yeah.
saying is that there's 4 entities, and just say it's cost $20,000, then are you guys going to fork over each a fourth of the
So how
cost?
it's worked in the past, I mean, there's something different that RegBri has done, and it's all kind of came out because of the Bush Light guy on TV, and RegBri kind of threw themselves under a bus because the director of RegBri donated $5,000 to them, and they took it back. Well, since then, they've been completely community supportive when they realized how bad it treated the Gannett Corporation. So they're telling us that they're going to pay us $30,000.
So,
Now, by saying that, they're not paying us, committee, $30,000. It goes back to help fund everything. So the county obviously should get a little bit for what they do, and the city and everything else. In the past, how it's worked is, at the end of the day, when everything was all said and done, we went through and paid back all the bills. And then we also we went through after the bills were paid and paid everybody who was a vendor, got money back. So the first year, I think they got like $240 back after, so the Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, whoever was involved in it, they all got money back on top of what they made, because we made a profit. We're not a for-profit business, and we gave it back to them. The City of Independence that year got $5,000 that we used as seed money for the future. Now, we show that we did that last time, but we haven't found it yet, so maybe it never happened. We don't know that. Our books show it, and everything says that happened, but it may not have happened. So that part I don't know about. I just kind of started working on that today and couldn't find the right answers. I talked to the old city manager, and he said yes, and the new Al started 2 weeks after that happened, and he didn't remember. But everybody that's on the committee, that was the synopsis one at a time. As I talked to them, I didn't lead them into it. I asked them if it happened, and they said, yeah, it was $5,000.
So Fred, let me,
But they might have been thinking 7 years before that. We're getting old, and sometimes we lose 7 years or 14 or something like that.
Fred, let me ask you this, because we hosted in 07 and 14, is that right? Yep.
That's correct.
Now, when what was I going to ask you about? I don't remember. Go ahead if you...
So where would that seed money have been?
Well,
Well,
it's got to be earmarked, and somebody's got to remember what the earmark is. And we have such a changeover in city government since then, they don't know for sure where it is, or at some point, did somebody attach it to something different that was for the city and it went away? We don't know.
Well, I know Susie went through our books and she couldn't find it. She only found 2 deposits for $5,000 during that timeline, and neither one of them were related to this.
Okay. And like I say, I know we did it the first time. Craig was our treasurer, Kaufman, and his daughter's having a baby today, so I couldn't get a hold of him. I'm a narrow-minded guy. But anyway,
So Fred, when was the change in leadership at RAGBRAI? Because the people that are in charge now are not the people that were in charge a few years ago.
So
there's
I
still
did talk-
some of the same people, but the actual guy who's the director of RAGBRAI right now is Matt Pippin. He's from Benton. His dad and mom both graduated from school from here in Independence.
Right, so I'm just wondering if it happened 2 years ago, or this last year, the first year that
So I can just say, I talked to Matt on the phone for probably 45 minutes to an hour after our meeting, presented him with the questions that you guys had. So I do have answers for those. I will tell you, 2021, he was not the director when we had him, when it came through Raleigh. Raleigh was a pass-through town, and they got no money for startup. In 2022, they did not, but in 2023, the pass-through towns now get $5,000. So that's probably about where it changed between 2021 and 2022. He did say, in meeting towns get $10,000 worth of startup. The overnight towns, what they do ask is they do $15,000 up front, And then the $15,000 on the back half, they really like the communities to use that as a community project. The money used for a community-funded project, whatever that may be, whatever the city chooses.
Not
We
paying our
could
police
choose to
back?
Just pay the bills with it.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, I mean, you could, but he
You-
did, go ahead.
The first year, we was all scared to death. We had a rainstorm come through. The tent was going up and down like
Yeah.
this. We was putting people on buses, trying to get them someplace safer than Teachers Park. Actually, it worked pretty well. It went pretty smooth. We got rid of everybody, but we had rain insurance, event insurance. We had a guy that we had to hire that was there, and all of a sudden, I looked over, and he was gone. It took us about 2 weeks to find out he left when the rain insurance, when we had the half inch that we needed, he just left. Filled out the papers and sent them in. We couldn't find out any answers or anything. So at that point, RagBri did come through that year and gave us, I believe it was $11,000. And the $11,000 broke us even, and then we collected on rain insurance, and it was $38,000. But our venue shut down at 9 o'clock, right when you're making your money. We shut it down, sent everybody home. An act of nature, but that's also why we bought the insurance. Now, the next year, it was,
Rainy in the morning.
yeah, it did rain. It was cold.
Hot in the
Cold as could be, and rained. And the only day they've ever treated somebody for hypothermia and heat exhaustion is
Same day.
Yeah, Rick Buckpole said that this morning.
Yeah. But, and the next time it was, even though we started with that in the morning, we were better organized and it all went smooth, and the normal profitability of it was what you would have expected or hoped for.
Okay. Nikki, I want to hear the answers to those questions, but the two things that we've been concerned about are, you already know, but I'll tell everybody else. Number one is how much money is the city potentially going to lose with all of the things that we have to be involved with in terms of police and in terms of all of our city staff people. And then the other issue is, how about volunteers? I mean, we're at a time, this happens in July. We've just done 4th of July. We've just done the county fair. And then we've got Brubicue coming up just behind it. And there's only so many volunteers that are available, and volunteers that were available in 2014 are almost 10 years older. Are they still going to all be able to do this stuff that they,
No.
for all different events?
You're right. That's our job, to create new volunteers. I mean, quite often, it doesn't matter if it's anything I've been involved with, you get stagnant because you have the same people doing the same thing over and over again. I mean, that's my main reason for saying that I don't want to be the chairperson. We need some new, younger people to do that stuff and to step up. And you'll be pleasantly surprised how the excitement of this thing will build and how quickly. I mean, it's just like everything else. You're looking for the volunteers, the next thing you know, you're overwhelmed. Housing's one of the hardest projects there is to do. And the last week before RagBri, in every town, people are calling and wondering if they could house somebody because their neighbor is, and they thought it sounded like fun.
Is Kathy Cole going to volunteer to do that all over again?
We haven't talked to Kathy yet.
Who's the chairperson now?
Of this?
It'll be-
We haven't
it'll be-
assigned one yet.
Yeah, we haven't assigned, I mean,
We don't even know it's going to happen.
Right.
Who's applying for it?
Well, that's the other thing I should point out to everybody, that we're just applying for an opportunity to do this. No matter what happens, we still have to be approved, and then once we are approved, I guess we technically could say no at that point, but that'd be a really tough no after they've already picked us.
yeah.
So, Nikki, do you mind going over the list with us?
Yes, so the first question I sent out was, the police chief asked if there was reimbursement from the RagBri organization for increased public safety for the event. Matt said there is not a public safety reimbursement like maybe there had been in the past that comes directly from RagBri, but I did get out my magnifying glass and look at the budget that we had from, I'm going to assume it was 2014. It did not say the date on it, but there was reimbursement to the city and the county for increased public safety. I believe Nieder said his was going to be around $25,000 roughly, and they said this morning maybe $6,000 for the county. And in 2014, it was $28,000 altogether that was reimbursed to the city and the county for that increased public safety from the proceeds of. So
Okay,
But when you asked that question this morning, or when you asked that question to Matt, he said there is not a reimbursement now?
No, and he said it in his, as long, he said he didn't ever think that there really had been. It doesn't come from RAGBRAI, it comes from each one of the towns, or if the city says, we'll, absorb that cost, or it comes back out of the money that is raised through RAGBRAI.
all right, Nikki, can I interrupt you for one second? Dave, can you come up a second and tell us what, from your perspective as the police chief, what are you thinking about?
So the 22.5 number I gave Nikki is only for hiring of the outside officers. It wouldn't cover any of our overtime.
I said 25.
25, yeah. Well, it's still going to be well under that. And then I know we'll have to probably add a dispatcher specific to RAGBRAI on.
Yep, that was,
Now, Fred mentioned highway patrol or other officers coming into town. Are those people that are going to come in for free, or are those people that we're going to have to end up paying as well?
We don't pay.
we don't pay them, they're part of the RAGBRAI crew. They have two separate RAGBRAI crews,
But-
Matt told me.
But they don't
Okay.
deal with our stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to be dealing with the downtown stuff and like that we're going to have to deal with.
So what do you think what do you think the entire thing, bringing officers in, paying our officers, what do you think our budget has to be to cover everything that you'd have increased over what you're normally?
Roughly on my officers too, it's another 4,000 to 5,000. And then you haven't even talked about streets, parks and rec, or
Right.
them either. It's just my feeling. I shared this with Nikki. I mean, everybody else is making money. I think that's great for the community. I don't have an issue with that. But it's when we end up footing the bill for it. I don't like that. And especially the fact RAGBRAI makes the money and they don't kick back anymore.
But they have started.
Yes.
Originally, they never, and
They
that's what they
used
got called under the bus.
Yeah, but they don't kick it back to us is my problem.
Well, and they think they are in different ways, so the $15,000 can go to your new building.
Well, but it doesn't cover that, is
Right,
it?
right.
I mean, because they get the licenses from the people who follow RAGBRAI, and they should be kicking it to the people who do it. If Nikki and her group would charge enough for a fee for the vendors, including the RAGBRAI vendors, we're not going to honor their RAGBRAI vending licenses. They have to have our specific licenses, then we might be able to make enough money to cover us.
Okay.
But we haven't talked about streets, we haven't talked about Park and Rec. Brad told me to talk about that as well.
Right.
How much is Brad, they got to set up for the teacher's park and that kind of stuff, but other than that, because I was a city worker the first time they came through in '78.
Teachers Park, all the streets that
Yeah.
are closed, because they closed streets last time, and they had to set up for it.
Well, and that's in preparation. There's also going to be follow-up, cleanup, things like that they're going to go on, which is
But
going to
that's
be the
part of
majority
normal-
of it.
And I want to point out too, Dave and I have had conversations, but I don't think anybody from the city is opposed to this. I want to make that clear. We're not opposed to it. We just want the council to understand that it's going to cost money. That's what we're trying to get across by having this conversation and by making sure the council had this discussion.
And where's it coming from?
Right.
And that's
you
my
have to
my
spend
worry, and I
money to
shared that with Nikki. I'm not telling her anything I haven't told her
Hold on,
before.
one at a time, one at a time.
We've been open and honest with it, but it would be 2 times my normal budget for overtime, and I don't have that. So,
Okay. Thank you, Dave. Well,
thank you.
Nikki?
Thank you, Chief.
Another question was about vendor licensing and fees. Is that handled through RAGBRAI? Is it handled at the committee city level? The cities and the committees charge the vendor fees. I did state that at that meeting, but I just wanted to reiterate that. RAGBRAI does have like a list of preferred vendors. So just say we had somebody that's local that has a food truck here that wants to participate. They probably aren't on the preferred vendors, but obviously we're going to let them come in, right? Those are people that kind of go all across the state.
But are we allowed to charge them a
Yes,
vendor fee, though?
yes, yeah, we charged vendor fees in Raleigh, and that's one thing Matt said.
Nikki, may I ask, you mentioned the vendor fees. I spoke with Matt this afternoon, but it's a different Matt. It was the Matt with West Union on the chamber, and he overseen it all 2 years ago when they went through. Now, when you're saying vendor fee, what amount of money are you looking at? Because they had 2 different categories, one for a profit
Yep.
fee and a nonprofit fee, and what dollar figure are you looking at?
Well, I would get to that. So what they do is typical overnight town is in the $500 range for a vendor fee for profit, and around, some are $250, some are $200, some are $300 for nonprofits. Matt Fippen told me that they do investigating. They call each one of these towns and say, hey, What are you charging? Because they want everybody to kind of be in line with each other. They don't want, I'm just gonna say, if Waterloo was the other overnight town, they don't want Waterloo to be at $900 and Independence to be at $400. They want everybody to be in that same range. So they help us, with some of that also.
Okay.
Did West Union say what they charged?
West Union started out at 600 for-profit and 300 on nonprofit, but they didn't have a whole lot at the 600 for-profit want to come in, and they ended up lowering it to, he thought it was 400, but he also made a comment, something about 300 on profit ones.
We charged as a pass-through town $300 in 2021, and we didn't have any nonprofit. We had all for-profit, but all the nonprofits worked together, and then we split the money at the end. So it was a little different than, but we charged $300 in 2021.
2 times it was here, it was 500 for-profit and 200 nonprofit.
See, and I think that's
And
fair.
the nonprofit people are the ones we gave money back to, not for-profit.
Right.
Sure, makes sense. Okay, Nikki, next.
Who is responsible for policing uncertified vendors? That's the responsibility of each city if you choose to enforce that. I know we talked about like if somebody were to come and park out back of Allerton that wasn't, it was a food truck or whatever, we would hope that Allerton would be a good community partner. I'm just using Allerton as an example.
we
because they're
appreciate that.
Yes, that they would be a good community partner in that and have that food truck also let them know that vendor fees have to be paid. So,
The other thing that happens when you do the food vendors, the health department has to approve them. And they have to have their license hanging on their vendor. So that pleases it as much as anything. They'll come through town, they go through, if they go through the Amish, they go through each Amish and kind of tell them, the cream pies are the thing they're most worried about because they can kill a lot of people if there was a bad one. But they'll come through and they'll set up, they'll help them all along, they'll tell them what they think will sell and all that stuff, but they keep track of it. But even if you go through the Amish area, on the table that you're buying your piece of pie from, there's a license on it from whatever county you're going through, and ours is all done through Blackhawk County.
Are we even going to have enough places for people to eat if 20,000 people come to town?
There won't be 20.
Bills is closed.
Last
and
year it was really big because it was 50th year. This year, when they get to Independence, Iowa, depends on the route they're taking, but there'll probably be, luckily, 10,000 people.
Your expectation is we're a Thursday night or a Friday night, probably, right?
We would be toward the end of the week. Thursday night's the best night, that's the night you want. If it happens to go from Waterloo or Cedar Falls to here, that'll be a big day of riding, but a lot of them people that ride that day will go home. And the closer you are to bigger towns, the more people ride on the road that day. But they'll go home. But serving the food, serving the people, a lot of that will fall on the vendors, but you'll get like St. John's, they know they can get 125 people in their basement, so they know they can serve 400 people. And they'll have all that set up in a route. Last time we had all the churches, we haven't talked to the school system yet, but we used the buses in the past, maybe you have. But we used the buses in the past, and we usually use, because they'll set up different corners, different spots in town to drop off and pick up people. Usually we're dropping them off and picking them up at a church on purpose, so they have a route to get to where they can go and eat and back, and then that feeds them from that section of town over. All of the bars, restaurants, they're somewhat controlled. They're made to shut down earlier just to get people off for the police department out of town a little bit better. But I mean, if you've ever worked it, it's amazing how smoothly they can handle that many people.
How many sponsors of local businesses do they have a requirement that RAGBRAI has for us?
no, he didn't say that. One of the things that they do, some expenses that they cover, that it looked like we covered last time, is they provide all of your volunteers with t-shirts, which is something that was on the budget that we provided last time. They produce and print all of the tear-off maps, which was we paid for last time. I think it was around $1,000. In the main campground area, they will supply 80 to 100 of the porta potties in that area, and that's a cost of $85 for a regular porta potty and $125 for an ADA compliant one, and I know that because I pulled out my bill from Meet Me on Main from DNS Portables, so that's huge. And he did say there is a little bit of leeway there, like they'll provide 80 to 100, but they don't want 40 of them going out to, our satellite campgrounds. There will be, a little leeway for us to mix them up a little bit, but
In July, our campground's usually pretty full.
yeah, yep, so.
Yeah.
What about shower?
You'll have, like, the fairgrounds, for instance, and they did send a letter, but all their area will be set up for camping. I mean, it's not necessarily a campground anywhere that these people are expecting to plug into. They're all pretty well self-contained. I mean, and a lot of them, you talk about one of the bigger groups, the Pork Bellies is the name of one of them, the other one's the Cubs, and they're about 1,000 people apiece, which we never liked because we didn't get their money. But, we got their money for that spot.
We did.
But we didn't get, they didn't come to our venue and drink, which pays for it, or eat, because they have their own food, their own entertainment, everything. They'll keep them right in their spot. So one of them was set up on the old football field down by the old high school. And
That's what Pork Belly was.
Yeah.
In that budget item, it said $2,500, so that must have been what
they
you charged
paid
them.
us
Yeah.
a flat $2,500
Okay.
back then.
But they also, I was doing the ice for the Mat Club at that time, and I sold almost $4,000 worth of ice down there.
Yeah, actually, we set you guys up there on purpose with the
Yeah.
menu thing, and it
Yeah.
worked pretty well.
Yeah.
And they'll come and buy stuff from the Cub Scouts Mat Club, any of that stuff, before they'll buy it from the vendor that's got RAGBRAI's name on it. I mean, people will go look out, little kids, and they're, in their lemonade stands and stuff like that. And no, we don't charge them a vendor fee for a lemonade stand.
What about shower facilities?
So
That was on the budget, a line item, but you know better about that than I do.
So most of the time, there's about 3 different shower companies in the state of Iowa. The one from Manchester is probably the bigger one. I don't remember their name, but they go to NASCAR races. I mean, they go everywhere. And they have these shower trailers that they pull in. They just pay so much rent, and they do give us, they paid us a fee, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
And actually, I was talking to Ralph earlier, and his guy from West Union suggested that we rent the trailers and sell the spots, which takes more labor, but they're selling the spots for $10, with the shower and towel and that stuff, it's $10 to go in and take a shower, 15 minutes. But they're really well organized too. Actually, they have sleeping quarters that they pull along, and people will rent them, and that's how they travel all week. They get a little cubicle like they live in China or something, and that's where they stay in for the week.
Okay, Nikki,
Just some of the other things that they provide. The last thing was the fact that they provide us with an LED sponsorship sign that will go down like our entertainment venue, which would be Riverwalk Park, and that we can run our sponsors on that, so people will be able to see that it's not something where we have to construct the big sign that they might do on the 4th of July or whatever, so it's something we can just plug in and make a video for and put everybody's logos and such in there.
so with regard to entertainment, is that something that they tell us who we have to use, or we have to use our own?
So last year, so when I was talking about the money, last year, they provided all of the entertainment for RAGBRAI 50, right? Which was huge. He told me, like in Ames, it cost him $190,000 because they had Leonard Skinner. Talking to those overnight towns, he told me they told them that they would have preferred to get more money for expenses on the front end and for donation towards your community project, etc. Leonard Skinner was great, right? But they said RAGBRAIers love their typical RAGBRAI bands, the Hairball, the Pork Tornadoes, the Spasmatics, things like that. So to spend, what they did last time, they'd rather give the money back to the towns that are throwing the parties and doing the stuff than they would to put on the big, they had those big stages like you guys have for the 4th of July, and I've heard you say how much that is, so it was.
You can use the RAGBRAI stage for nothing. We've got our own at Teacher Park, if we want to use that, or they can set their stage up next to it, it don't matter. Sometimes they'll have two, and then you have your local band set up here, and whoever your bigger band is set up on the stage. But most of the time, they share the same stage. Just big towns like Des Moines, anybody who rides RAGBRAI hates going to the big towns. They want to come to small town independence because it's more RAGBRAI people. It isn't all the locals like you get down there.
So we've got Cynthia here. Tell her what the effect on the school is going to be.
Hi. Well, the main thing is busing, which in the past we could look up how we did it. Bert was here then and done an awesome job. It was almost the last job that Bert did, which is really sad. But and then your footprint is where a lot of the camping is. And then the showers, they set up in schools, and most of the time you guys, or maybe it was nonprofits that you had in there, but was selling the usage of your showers. And that's pretty normal across the state on how they do it. There's different fees that you charge, different groups will pay to go into them areas. You can charge, all overnight camping, everybody pays a fee. So if it's set up at your school district, it's up to you guys to vote on it and decide if you want to allow it or are going to allow it. But then the fees and that stuff is also up to you guys on how it works.
I do know busing was a line item on the budget, a reimbursable at so much a mile, so, yeah. Yeah, I know.
I had the same question just around our budget,
Yeah.
too, like what it's gonna cost
Yep.
us to
Yeah.
It was on the,
repair facilities, use our facilities and so on versus what we make, or if we're responsible for making that money back, and or if there's a reimbursement that happens.
Yeah, well, and we're hoping for any of our municipal units, they all get to a better than break even, and then we can put it out into the community to all the nonprofits.
And then the school, Fred, will be responsible for policing any people coming in to pay for camping and that, right? They're gonna need to handle
in charge of
all
their
that.
area, yeah.
And they'll also be in charge of all the cleanup following that.
That's right. It's kind of like a campground, though. You go to a campground, and everybody's clean. They put their trash, as long as you have a place for trash, they put the trash where it's supposed to be. That next day, it stormed that next morning. And we actually had trucks set up, our tractors, just in case they started spinning on your property. And we didn't have that problem. But we had several dumpsters there, and they had more garbage and dumpster, but it was all at the dumpsters. It was really kind of surprising how quickly they clean up after themselves. And you'll talk to most people, if they're staying at their houses, it's cleaner when they left than when they got there.
That was not the experience that I witnessed when I was on the fair board at the Buchanan County Fair
Oh, at
Association.
my house-
Fred, I don't remember if you were on then or not, or
I
if you
was, but I don't
were
remember
downtown.
it being a mess.
It was a big mess. And one of the things that we had trouble with was policing the people that stayed there. There was people coming in at all hours throughout the course, just setting up tents and staying for free. Using the shower houses that were there and any electricity they could find, any water they could
Yeah,
hook up
you
to.
got it. You do have to stand at the door and
Yeah. So I just want to make sure that people understand, we're going to have to come up with some volunteers. Even though we've got the footprint, like at the school, it's going to take an army to make sure that they're keeping track of what's going on.
most of the time, just as they're pulling into paved driveways is how they handle it.
The issue gets to be,
It's gonna, also take our, custodial staff, buildings and grounds, so I'm sure there's going to be costs that we will take on, to support the event if it were to come through. I have been able to find out a little bit of, I don't believe the new junior, senior high was used in 2014, because it would have been brand new, maybe a year old, and so I think that was maybe off limits, but the old high school is still.
Old high school was still there,
And so that was
and you
used
hadn't
as
opened up the
space
new
lines.
building yet.
And so we'll just have to talk through details on what the expectation is for space, since that was not a used site, but there was an additional space, and lockers there, and.
used a lot of that area north of West School too, that whole open area there that they used for soccer practice. There was a lot of tents there. A lot of what we experience coming into town, these people are coming in not onesie twosie. When they come in, they're coming in 10 to 20 at a time, if not more, with a constant bottleneck of people coming behind them. So if you're not prepared with individuals to register them coming in, take their money, things like that, one person stops and 10 go by, and that's not an exaggeration. So then you need to be able to police them in to make sure, if you're doing it for a profit, it's gonna take some manpower.
Most of them are assigned their canvas file well before. I mean, so if you might have a green dot, and that might be the school, the blue dot might be the fairgrounds or whatever, they know where they're going. So even that time, I stood out on the highway directing traffic at 5 in the morning for the buses and stuff coming in, pouring rain, freezing, didn't have enough clothes on. But anyway.
It's too much information,
it was-
Fred.
Yeah, too far. This was early in the day, Fred, not late in the day. You've all seen the pictures.
But
It was really hot.
anyway.
Any losses here over it?
They, you just, if they try to, because part of the problem then is Walmart on their map was out there, not over there. And so they all tried to get off the wrong intersection, and we figured that out pretty early and got them all directed back in. But it was pretty neat when they all knew where they were going. And most of the time, if they said somebody's name, I said, okay, they're over on 8th Avenue, you're better off going this way than going around or whatever, so.
How many churches were involved in it the last time?
I know Lutheran Church served lasagna, the St. John's
Beef and noodles.
beef and noodles, the school at St. John's, because I helped with that, was spaghetti. The Methodist Church did the next morning. They did like little breakfast to go baggies and stuff like that. Somebody did enchiladas. I can't remember if it was the Presbyterian Church or it was the church next to I know.
Hope Wesley.
Nope.
St. James had one and there was no turnout.
St. James,
It was
yes.
not worth the
Somebody
time.
did
The mornings,
enchiladas.
most people want to get out of town.
Yeah.
I mean,
We did it the day they came in at that church and
Yeah.
Nothing
you
was-
try to- And they were told that, I'm sure, because mornings, everybody's on a bike and leaving town.
yeah.
There's not a lot of room.
And I reached out to one of the churches and they had very bad experience with people. They said they put sleeping bags for the bathrooms, people couldn't get in the bathrooms. They were trying to serve people food and people wanted to sleep in that area and it was not a good experience. I also reached out to a hotel because they want rooms, just to see if that's been done. I don't know if you guys reached out to any hotels
Yeah,
or
we
not.
have a letter of support from the Comfort
And the
Inn
one
out there.
hotel said, no. Their rooms were trashed so bad they had to hire extra housekeeping, and the repairs cost them a lot more than they ever made. So, not good experience for a lot of people.
How many rooms are they at? Somebody said they had a certain number that we had to have.
I've seen 120.
You have to rent.
120.
We barely have that in town.
I think I saw. I think it was on that application.
Yep,
Do we have that many rooms
We do.
at that time of the year?
we do. Well, we do have 120 rooms, and they also want to know how many hotels are within a 20-mile radius, and we've gotten that also for them, so.
So one of the questions I have too, and Fred, maybe you can answer this better, or you, Nikki. So one of the problems that we're facing right now, one of our biggest issues in this town, and you guys, well, not you so much, Nikki, don't deal with it, but our waste disposal is a serious issue right now. Mine still, from last week, hasn't been picked up, and today was the day. I don't normally experience that, but we keep running into these, our truck is down, our person didn't show up situations. Does Ragbri have a relationship with Waste Management that is going to turn what we can't seem to get turned here in town around to?
Last time, the last 2 times, we had a contract with Waste Management. We used, basically both times, we used boxes that we collected from St. Charlie's and different appliance places. And that's where they put it in. They was able to just pick them up and throw them all away at the same time.
And that would be like at the city park if we were down at Riverwalk Park, but as far as like the
Parks,
school.
around to the schools and everywhere they had way more dumpsters set up than, they brought them in from outside to have them set up.
Waste
This
management.
year, we have more options than we had before. We could use Kleesner's, there's quite a few different places that are big enough around us that we're not dependent upon the big anymore. Not that the big isn't better, but, I mean, we do have other options. And
When you
maybe
say-
we'd have to use different options in different parts of town.
To clarify, when you say we, are you RAGBRAI, Fred, or are you City of Independence? As far as bringing them in and
I
paying
think
them?
City of Independence.
I was clarifying, because again, trying to figure out the financial side of it and what it's gonna cost. I was trying to.
I do know in 2014, they budgeted $7,200 for waste receptacles, and 4,200 of it came back in kind from waste management, so. I know there's a problem here, I see it on the paper.
Oh, yeah, I know, I was just giving you grief.
Yeah, I live in Raleigh, we don't have that problem.
Nikki, what was
Yeah.
the total amount of the expense budget that you had? Not what you, other things, but just everything that you expensed that you've been talking about. You've been giving us numbers.
I want to say it was like $150,000. Maybe. I mean, I pretty much tooth combed the things that I thought you were gonna ask. I didn't think you were gonna ask me that totally because I wasn't sure. I think it was 150.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is so if we've got 150 in expenses,
But that was also other things that like the fundraising for, like when they sold t-shirts, that was in there. So like
Sure.
some of that stuff probably wouldn't fall back, say, on the city per se, so.
right, but we've also got
Yes.
inflation over the time
Yep.
period in the last 10 years
Yep.
too. So if that costs, I'm not a math person here, so somebody else is the math person, but so if you've got $150,000 and they're only going to give us 30,000 back, where's the extra money coming from?
Well, I would say.
Well, but they're not getting $150,000. Our expense of putting.
No, expense, yeah.
And if I remember right, it was 128.
Okay, 128.
But if-
Anyway, so that's paying for the garbage, paying for the school buses, paying for everything. Because their total budget that we put together at that time was $128,000. Now, the sponsorships that we sold, it was just like anything else. You had the major ones on down. Sponsorships, t-shirts we sold, actually, we done well on t-shirts.
Yeah, I think your budget was.
And stuff like that paid it all back.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty close, well, it was close enough that you knew beer sales would pay for it that day. By the time we had everything covered, and if you have decent weather, sad to say, but concessions is what's gonna sell, and the biggest thing in concession is beer. So that's a factor, so.
How much of that 128,000 or whatever the number is actually going to be required to be paid by the city at some point in time?
Well, anything that the committee does to raise money ahead of time is, the last time it came through, there was zero paid by the city. The city was paid back, and all the vendors were paid. So the last time it came through, I mean, we sat down with the city, and there was people from the city that was on the committee, and we floated through it, and, after everything's said and done, what's the fairest way to get rid of this money? And we thought the nonprofit vendors is who needed it, and
No, and rightfully so. I don't have any problem with that at
So all
all.
of our police officers was paid?
Yeah, that was,
between us and RAGBRAI, they paid that extra expense last time, yes.
Right, but I thought, I may have misunderstood. I thought they said that they were not paying the officers.
She said Matt told her that, but last time they did.
well,
Yeah, because that was a different
from
leadership.
his- I would say from his perspective, they don't have any extra for law enforcement. Maybe just from his time.
I mean, obviously, I think it's a great idea. I'm just concerned about it from the city's perspective in terms, our budgeting is not the greatest thing in the world right now to begin with. And how are we going to figure out how much more of this is going to cost us? I mean, go ahead.
No, you're on the right track. That's exactly the concerns that I have is with the state limiting our tax revenues and taking away levies and combining levies together and doing the things that they have done at the state level, this next budgeting season is going to be tight. And so doing extra, an extra thing is, I'm not saying it's out of the question. It's just we have to understand that if we do that, we're not going to be doing something else. Because we got to, you can't create money out of thin air. So
Things our citizens
Can I
might want.
ask this question? Before you give money to the nonprofits,
all money taken in will take care of all expenses before nonprofits get
That's
any
correct.
money.
Yeah.
Okay, because here again, and I'm just referring back to Matt in West Union, which happened 2 years ago, and you were talking about the porta potties, and you said they brought in a bunch. They ended up renting 150 regular porta potties and 8 handicap ones at a tune of $14,700 is what the city paid on that. And they also rented out their swimming pool area, and it was $8 if you just wanted to take a shower, and it was $10 if you went with a shower and a towel. And in 6 hours, they took in $8,000 just at the swimming pool. And when I told you, he recommended that the city or the, committee rent the shower stalls because he said they made a ton of money. Those things were constantly full. And he said, next time, if we have an opportunity for it to come through West Union again, we're gonna rent those things, those showers, because we'll make far more money if we rent rather than the other route.
And I've never looked at or seen if they're available to rent. I'm not saying they're not, but I've never looked at that. And
But when they were,
Got an opportunity.
when they were all said and done, with all expenses and everything, they gave right close to $50,000 back to different nonprofits within West Union.
So did Lansing. Lansing gave a huge amount. I think it was between 40, somewhere, I think it was around the $50,000 mark that they were able to
Yeah,
get back.
and that was after all expenses
what year
were
ago
paid,
in
the
Lansing?
city and everything.
Well, I was actually going through the town that day and didn't know that they.
That was
were
2 years
there.
ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, because it went through West Union, and then it went to Lansing.
So still before the new
The new regime. Mm-hmm.
And they had a couple gray years there, but the new regime is definitely about giving back.
Fred, I gotta reiterate what Brad was talking about earlier. What is your gut feeling on volunteers? From 9 years ago,
To today,
I would say it seems like that we do pretty good for this community volunteering wise.
and, fortunately, or hopefully it's the same as it was last time, but when we reached out to the bigger industries as sponsors, that's where most of our volunteers came from. And then, but local, you'll be surprised on the amount of excitement it creates in the community. There's going to be new people at the front of it, which is a good thing. There's, a lot of us have been involved in a lot of different things over the years, and it's kind of fun for me to see the ones that you fed along, and now all of a sudden they're chairing the projects. And it's our job to teach new volunteers. It's no different than at church. It's our job to show them how to give. But, you just have to create that, cultivate them, and come up with new
Well,
people.
the little bit that my wife and I were involved in 2014, it was a totally positive experience. And from what we heard from several people outside of the community, it was A+. And the cleanup thing, especially at the school, was fantastic from what I heard. So,
Are you worried, though, that you've got your 4th of July people? Are they going to be the same number of people that are going to be volunteering then?
They're kinda like us on the Fair Board.
In the Fair Board?
A little nervous, we got a letter from Fair Board, but they're a little nervous because it's so close together. But you're still going to cultivate new people, and there's the same amount of people that are going to show up and help on everything. But it is going to cultivate new people. One thing that everybody's always worried about when you're doing the fundraising and raising, because, at the fairgrounds, we got to create about $150,000, $180,000 just to put on a concert ahead of time. But there, if you look at all of our sponsors up there, it's amazing how few of them are from Independence and how many of them from the surrounding county. It's different, even though some of them are the same, it's still a different group of people. the Celebrate Andy, they have really nothing to worry about because they've got such a great track record and good system of how they do it, plus they're celebrating independence and the 4th of July. Ours is going to be a little more difficult, but it shouldn't be. It doesn't have to be because it's the excitement these gals are going to create.
It's the same thing for Brubacue too, and then they'd be after the fact.
And
Well,
it's the same-
2014, we had the barbecue, and I think it went along just fine.
So every one of those events happened in the same
Yes.
range of time in 2014. Our 4th of July, the fair, the Reg Bri, and the barbecue. And they're all still here today.
One thing Matt suggested from West Union, he goes, if we have the opportunity again, what I'm going to highly recommend is we start promoting to the community a couple months earlier than they did. He said they really started promoting about 4 to 5 months before it came through, and he said we really should have started around 8 to 9 months out to create more
I wish
excitement.
that was possible.
But that's not
Nobody can
possible.
promote until Reg Bri announcement day.
Yeah, the one thing.
Now, that doesn't mean behind the scenes that we don't already have a logo, we don't already have
Right.
T-shirts, we don't already have our committees, but we've got a group of people that are sworn to an oath that they're not going to tell anybody what's going on. And, obviously, you guys will know, but at that point, you just know. And when they make the announcement party, the first time we was down there for the announcement party, we didn't know that we had it until they announced it. And they walked out, laid a book on our table and says, okay, you're in. The next time they gave us a book in January.
Yeah.
The 1st of January.
So when do
And said,
they,
this doesn't mean you're in, but
January.
it's a good sign.
Like, I think it's like the last
Third
week.
week in
Third week in January,
Yeah.
yeah. That was-
Route announcements, January 27th.
Yep. That was one thing that Wolf Cool said this morning.
So we're
after-
talking about next year's
Yeah, 2024.
Rag Bri,
Yeah, they don't
correct?
give us very much time. They send
Your
it out.
application deadline's the 31st.
Yep,
Yeah,
of
we
this
do.
month.
yep.
Yep, all right. It's just a check, just a
Right,
box to check.
and that's why we're having the discussion at the
Yeah.
council meeting tonight rather than at a work session, because we didn't have the time to have it at a work session.
And that's why
Exactly.
we kind of started with some letters of
Right.
support, because we knew from today to Monday, we're really going to be on the ball trying to get some of those. So we have,
And Nikki, don't take this the wrong way, okay?
I'm not.
If the city were to be losing money as a result of RAGBRAI and your budget came up for when you want us to give you money, would you be upset if we discounted the money that you would be asking for?
Well, I would hope that you wouldn't discount your chamber dues, because Rag Bri would not be the only event that the chamber helps put on. But,
Because we give money to all three of you that comes out, that's part of our budget too. And what if we're $20,000 in the hole as a result of all this?
well, I can only speak for myself. I don't know that you, other than, I don't know what your dues are from the city. And I don't think tourism has gotten any hotel motel tax for a couple of years. I would say probably our hotel motel tax that you guys do give us for events, we might have to forgo that year.
But you
And it's
also,
usually $3,000 to $5,000.
you also have to keep in mind that this would generate more hotel motel tax. If you're renting
One night.
all of your, yes,
Yeah, it's
but
not-
potentially more if people are staying for after.
Oh, the band's
for
needed for
support.
2 days.
Right, but most of the time, at that time of the year, our hotels are pretty much full anyway. It's not like those are vacant times. We have
More
unlimited
weekends.
people.
More weekends probably because of weddings, but we're lucky that we're going to fall on a Thursday or Friday, that they probably won't be full.
Okay. I mean,
I would assume.
I'm not, Nikki, obviously, I'm not saying we would ever
Yeah.
consider doing that. I'm just,
Yeah,
you know.
no, I guess it,
When I think of some of the debacles that we spent over $25,000 in the last 5 years, it had nothing to do with promotion of community events or assisting schools or assisting any other needed areas.
Right.
It's like, to me, this is a no-brainer. I mean, investigations, for example, we've had have cost almost $50,000. So, I don't know. I've been in favor of it from the beginning, so that's
No,
my
I know.
opinion.
I know. I'm just worried about the money, that's all.
Yeah, and it's, the same question's been asked every time. And we all kind of shut up and look at the ground and say, gotta hope that don't happen. But the possibility is always there. But hopefully the core committee does a good enough job selling that pre-major advertising, basically sponsorship, that everything will come back around. And if you pay your sponsorship up front instead of on the other end, then we know it worked.
And do you think that, okay, so you've got sponsorships that you have to buy for this, and you don't think that the people that buy the sponsorships normally for 4th of July and for,
Same people.
they're going to contribute again, it won't matter?
It's a little bit different. It isn't every year. It affects each business in different ways. There's different reasons why they'll want to be a part of it. We do a pretty good job, or in the past, doing a pretty good job of having people from them companies be on our core committee. And that's might be the bigger help of all of it, but.
Now, I mean, maybe you can't answer this, but the major people that were involved in 14, that were the leadership of that, several of them I've talked to, and they said absolutely not. We never do it again. But do you have the majority that you think is interested in this and want to participate again, or are they all going to back off and say, I did it in 14, I'm never going to do it again?
The only one of the core committee that I've talked to that said that is Bill Bursless, and he was the co-chair with me. And then after it was all said and done, he looked at the ground and said, I guess maybe something. But, I mean, almost everybody never stood up to be a treasurer. Craig Hoffman was the treasurer, and he says, I won't be the chairperson, but he says, I'll help whoever's on it.
Same with Chris McGraw. She was the secretary. She's like, I won't be the secretary, but I will definitely help. Fred said, I don't want to be a committee chair, but I'm going to serve in an advisory role, and here he is, our biggest
And I don't
today,
think any of us
so.
should be. I think
Right.
you need new blood. But asking us the question, I'd feel bad if they never.
Sure.
I myself personally, not being here during the last two to actually experience what transpired, the positives, negatives, and everything. But the different things I've heard from Ragbarizing towns, I have heard more positives than negatives. You're always going to have some negatives, because no matter what you do, somebody's not going to be happy with something.
That was the way it was in Raleigh. I literally sat in the first meeting with the people in Raleigh, and they were like, no, we don't want to do it. They were coming through Raleigh no matter what, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we reached out in a different way. We knew Raleigh couldn't do it, so we reached out to the band came and helped us. The Presbyterian Church youth came and helped us. We made $12,000 that we were able to get back in about 5 hours just from that. But each one of those people who said, I don't want RAGBRAI to come through again, I don't want to do it, when we had our wrap-up meeting, each and every single one of them said this was a way different experience and I would do it again. So.
Yeah, because my feeling is, we are responsible to the citizens to control their taxes properly. The only downfall I see is if we have horrible weather, we're going to be in trouble for it. If we have great weather, we're going to be heroes.
Well, that's what the insurance is all about.
And the next question is, how much is the insurance? That was going to be my next question.
It's pricey.
Last time it was $3,800 for 4 hours, and it paid us $38,000. That was 2 times ago. Now, our event insurance that we've been buying.
Now, what do you mean for 4 hours?
That's all.
You insure it for your 4 peak hours that you think it can affect you the most if you get rain.
Okay.
5 to 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what it was. That was 2 times. That was 07. I'm sure the insurances went up.
Just like everything else.
Yeah,
Can you share with us, do you guys buy rain insurance for the events you have at the fair,
definitely.
the concerts? Can you share with us those numbers?
I don't remember what we spent last year. It seems like for both concerts and for we insured the races and we insured the demo derby, and we insured them different amounts of money because they're worth different amounts of money.
Sure.
I think our total insurance was around 18 grand.
But that's a lot of different events too. That's not just.
Well, in
that
one
night.
event, we had insured for 150,000. Another one was 75, another one was 40, and another one was 18 or something like that.
Cynthia, do you have anything else that you want to share, or you happy to just listening?
So I've been in other communities that have been host towns for RAGBRAI several different years. And so, yes, while it certainly is a challenge, and we want to make sure we plan well for it, I think if we're worried about losing money when we bring 10 or 15,000 people into town, we've got a management issue of doing something not right if we're not making a profit on it. But bigger than that, when things occur, again, I go back to, it's about what we want to give people as an experience when they come to Independence. We want to show off our town, we want to show off our schools, we want to show off our hospitality. And so I think even if we end up losing some money, that's a good investment because we've been able to make a name for ourselves and give people an experience. So
I will tell you the last thing that Matt Pippin did say to me as we were wrapping up our conversation. He said, "You do know, right, that Independence is a proven RAGBRAI community. So take that however you want."
Okay.
What did she say?
What?
What did you say?
I said, Matt Pippin said to me at the end of our conversation, he said, "You do know that Independence is a proven RAGBRAI community. So take that however."
That means the people on RAGBRAI like
Oh, I
to come.
understand what it means.
Yeah.
I got it.
You just had that look on your face like, what?
He always has that look on his face, so never mind.
Well, you probably see it more than I do.
I'm on the fence.
If we,
Deb, we're going to recruit you to be on one of our committees.
Oh, she's out
if
now.
we act on this, will it give us a better chance to host if we want to do it?
What? I'm sorry.
We have to do this. Tell them.
Well, the application says, like, either you want to be considered or you don't want to be considered for whatever reason.
Right.
Since 2019, we couldn't.
But if we make a decision tonight, is it going to make it that much easier maybe
In the
for
future.
us to be a host?
In the future, or for
For
2024?
24.
Well, approximately 200 towns turn in applications. So, and historically,
And there's 7 of them that get it.
yeah.
Yeah, but it all depends on where they're coming from, you know.
Yes.
The route, right.
Depends on the route.
Usually it's both ends of Iowa that makes it, where it starts in the Missouri or ends in the Mississippi, and then they line up towns in between.
Yeah.
They gotta get both host towns on them ends, and then they line them up. A lot of people try to guess it from north, south, central, and all that stuff, and it has no bearing. You'll drive yourself nuts if you try to think that way. But it's just everything in between. I really expect Matt to get it close to his hometown. I'd be really surprised if it's not in Benton.
Well, that's why I just said we could be a meeting town.
And a meat town is gravy.
Yeah.
I mean, they're here for 3.5, 4 hours and gone. I mean, that's
When does that come about, Fred?
we don't know. We just have to be between 2 towns.
I think don't they?
So if it was in Owine and somewhere south,
Yeah.
we'd be in the middle, and then they could go through Independence.
I think in that.
We'd know in January.
No,
Well, no,
No.
they
March, right?
it's usually March. Sometimes it's a no-brainer if you look at the map, but there's different. Like next year in Kewaskum, it's almost not going to happen even if it's here because the Kewaskum Diagonal is going to be down. You know, so we already know that that's not a route that they could do, even though they could go down the US road, go to Winthrop, and then go back, and they do backtrack like that sometimes. So it's whatever works the best for them. But they get the overnight towns, and then they go out and work with the counties to see what the best roads are to work and all that stuff.
Is
afterwards.
Thursday usually the Century Ride? I feel like Raleigh, we were part of the Century Ride in 2021. Is it the 100 mile?
There's, that again depends on how the towns and where there's an easy route to do that extra 20 miles on.
By the way, Mr. Klutzbaugh did send a letter of, that he's not interested in it at all. Now he's favorable.
No, actually, I thought one of his little themes he sent in his letter was quite catchy.
Yes, it was. He's got ideas with slogans.
Yes.
Come up with slogans for us.
So
just one thing I want to clarify too. You said that they're willing to pay for toilets, but not public safety.
So in the main campground, which is usually where their registered riders, or a lot of their registered riders are, they will provide the porta potties for that area.
So would that be like our teacher's park?
Do
Or
you
what
know
would
where
we
the main one
consider
is?
our main campground? Because we really don't have a
The
big.
main campground most likely will be the school,
Yeah.
because that's the biggest
Family
footprint.
friendly only.
So if it ends up at the school there in the city down by the new swimming pool, they will move them between. I mean, they'll spread them around to where they need. I mean, Rebecca Court up there, they posted the Navy.
So large area.
Last times, and they actually took them up there for them too. So,
Just
What
trying
about
to, so
MHI?
footprint, but I want to go back to, so line item for toilets, no line item for public safety as of now.
as of now.
As of now.
That just seems a little
Backwards.
different to me, but, okay.
Dave, anything else from you, or we covered all?
No, why would you be sorry? It's not yours. I appreciate the information. That's good
I
information.
think that question from Mr. Prasad,
I was thinking the same thing.
slates.
Let's wait and see if we.
I'm sorry, what did he
It
just
does
say?
me too, but I bet we don't quite understand all that.
Here we go.
Oh, I think,
They paid it in the past, so why wouldn't they pay it now?
well, that's my feeling. They paid for law enforcement in the past, but they won't.
But we haven't really heard that.
Well, now,
I
Mike,
heard it in the last year from a town.
Or I'll be looking for volunteers.
Before?
That's what the chief there said.
Absolutely. Yep.
Seems like-
Fred, question I have, when they paid for
Been like-
enforcement in the past, did they provide upfront money and the tail end money at that time also?
Never have
think it's like
before
a protect-
given us upfront
What's
money.
that?
I don't think
Never.
we'll take that.
But did they give money on and above paying for
Right.
law enforcement?
Well, because of this.
In the last year, actually, I don't remember quite how it was. I remember them giving us the 11 grand when we thought we were losing money, and then we got our $38,000. So, and at that time, they said they would catch up any town that was losing money.
But
But
Dave-
that's in the air at this time.
Dave, didn't you say before that at one point they were actually paying the officers or giving some contribution toward the officers?
No, from the last planning, I remember there was a reimbursement from RAGBRAI through the committee for safety and security for officers, yes.
But this was with the prior group, leadership group?
Yes.
Okay.
But,
I could clarify that now and call Matt and ask him that.
oh, yeah, give them a call.
Well,
He told
Nikki
me-
said, yeah,
he
Nikki,
told
I just
me
want to make sure he was
no
sure.
Direct
There's no direct
reimbursement
reimbursement
at
now.
this time. So, and he said that he didn't know of any in the past either, but it could have been 100 years ago. I mean, you know what I mean? It could have been 15, 20 years ago. I don't know. So, but like he said, $30,000 will be the minimum. They fully intend, he said, the plan is to give more. We just don't know.
Use it how you need to use it. It'll be, 30 grand minimum, basically, is what he's saying. Could go to law enforcement, could go to
Yes, I mean,
nonprofits,
they-
could go to a
Well, the
building,
15
whatever.
Yeah, they say 15,000 upfront for your expenditures. They would like you to use that $15,000 on the back end for a community project, whatever. Last year, they gave above and beyond. I went through some of the pictures. They gave $20,000 to a park and rec department. RAGBRAI itself versus, you know what I mean? They gave above and beyond. They had a partnership with whoever Ellen used to have the partnership with that she'd give the big checks, the money. So they had a big, huge corporate sponsorship for Give Back, so.
In something they never used to do, but in every town, they stood there and gave a check
Yes.
back to the community on stage.
Okay.
But not for law enforcement.
It could be used for law
It
enforcement.
could be used,
If we
okay.
ask for law enforcement, I bet we get it.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. That's all.
Just want to make sure.
Okay, further questions? Catherine, anything?
No, I just want to make sure that our taxpayers don't get, that was and it sounds like there's ways we can set things up so that it doesn't fall back on the taxpayers.
Mike, anything further?
I've been for it since the beginning. I was a part of the first one here, was it 1978 when they came through the first time, Fred? And I was a city employee that summer.
I don't remember that.
I don't think you were a twinkle
I
yet.
said I remember being
That was
a
the first
kid
day I
and driving
rode.
through town and you know, all the tents at the middle, or at West Elementary and the middle school, and thinking, that's the coolest thing ever. My parents dragging me through town. I was probably 5 or 7 at that time.
In
so.
77?
Close,
No.
close to it, because
It would have been in the 80s. It would have been in the 80s.
yes, it was early 80s,
Yeah.
2, 3 maybe,
We
yeah.
had a tornado that night, by the way.
I was not really making a good weather representation.
I know, I'm a little worried now. Brian?
Make sure we.
No, I think, and they've answered, you guys done a great job answering
Yes,
my
thank
questions
you.
and giving information.
There's nobody on this committee, or nobody you'll find, I guess I'm not on their committee, but
Yes.
none of us want the city to lose money.
No.
I mean, we're all about independence,
And we know that.
creating and promoting independence.
And I don't think that any of us either think it's going to be a big money grab for whatever organizations also.
Right. No, we understand it. We're not trying to make money, we're just trying to not lose money.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Ralph, something
That's
else?
where I am.
Yes.
Something else from you? Ralph?
I have no more questions. You guys did a fantastic job as far as I'm concerned on answering questions. And part of the reason, since I'm freshly back to the territory again, that's why I reached out to West Union, since it was just 2 years ago, to find out where their numbers are, what expenditures did they have, what did they do right, what did they do wrong. I mean, we spent about 45 minutes, and it was very enlightening speaking with Matt with the chamber up there, and that kind of leaned me towards which way I would go with it.
Do you have anything else from you?
I'm just on the fence about the finance part of it. The rest of part of it's great. I mean, bring the people to the community, but the city can't afford to lose money, and it comes back, and obviously the city manager and their mayor have looked at the finances with it, and we don't know where we come up with that money at this time, right?
Right.
And you'd certainly hate to get voted yes, and then we have to say we can't do it. That would,
Glass half empty or half full?
that's, I
Come on,
don't know.
Deb, fill
I
it up.
like Michelle McBride's hesitantly optimistic, and I
Right.
think everybody is going into it hesitantly optimistic, but I just think Independence, Independence isn't going to be the only town affected in Buchanan County. You know, like Matt said, there's likely, if Independence isn't overnight, there's likely going to be 2 pass-through towns who are also going to be, affected by this also, so.
Yeah, but that's gravy, Fred said.
Yeah.
It is.
It is.
It really is.
It is
You don't pay any advertising, you don't,
Yeah,
All right, Tom?
about 10 meetings and they come through.
yeah.
I'm basically like Mike. I'm positive on this thing. The only question I'd have for you, Fred, is can you think of anything negative from 2014?
Anything negative? No.
We haven't already hashed over it.
Nothing that we haven't.
Other than what Brian was saying, was
You mean
it
those good
the,
points that are valid?
what?
You mean those good points that are valid?
Right.
They're not necessarily negative, they're just points that I want to make sure are brought up.
Well, but it was negative. About, wasn't it about the,
Okay.
the county fairgrounds area? See, I didn't even hear about that. Oh, I heard about the school, and it was really cleaned up nice. They did a great job.
Are the MHI grounds going to be used again?
Charlie
Not a
was
bad
on
plan.
the.
Has anybody talked
Charlie
to
was
Kate,
there, and
the new
I think
superintendent?
I think Rick
he asked
Wilkel
if
said
we
this
wanted
morning.
him again. So I think so.
Yeah.
We-
Rick Wilkel said this morning.
We hosted a group
Yeah.
in our backyard too, and they were fantastic and cleaned up, and
I had
they
donuts and muffins for my group.
we even
outside of 6:30.
got a letter from them afterwards too.
I've been involved with overnight stays, well, in the last one, where we actually had 220 people, I think, something like that. Yeah.
I think Kate Iverson, just as much as he's pushing community, would love to, I don't know about sponsor, but be part of something.
Yeah.
Plus, look at the amount of shower areas and stuff that they.
We'll let him fund it all, that's okay.
In 2014, I
We had a
was
pretty
part
tight
of the
budget, too.
St. John's spaghetti dinner, and we had people coming in from 2007 that remembered that they had showers, but St. John's School had just ripped out all their showers, and so we had to tell people to go to alternate places. But so it's funny how those people remember, oh, this place had showers the last time I was here, or vice versa. So.
Okay, we're going to move, Ralph got one more thing?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to bring up is You know, we have allocated money on doing surveys for certain things that might happen within the community. And some of those surveys are $8,000-$10,000 that we're spending, not knowing what the outcome there is. It's just a survey with no potential of money coming in. I personally think for the betterment of the overall city, I think it's worth the chance to go with it.
Got that project going for the west side,
Yeah, the beautification project.
Yes,
Look how much money we've
absolutely.
invested into that.
you know.
Didn't spend any money on that, it's all
Could
great.
that be
How
done
much
by
we
then?
plan on spending.
Yeah, could we speed that up and have that done by then?
Yeah, really.
We're working on
Another
it.
thing,
Love to.
Fair, that's a
Okay, wait a-
separate topic.
okay,
We need to
hold
be
on, hold on,
task
hold on, hold
with
on.
Right, but
RAGBRAI.
I'm using examples of how we do money.
Okay.
Only if
I
we
think
take
we
out
need
the
to-
speed
All right, let's-
cameras.
Well, let's get the vote here. This is a roll call vote then.
Moore,
Yes.
Crusader,
No.
O'Laughlin,
yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Houston.
Just to be clear, are we voting for?
This is a motion to submit a host town application to RAGBRAI saying yes.
For an overnight?
Independence wants to
Yes.
be a
Yep.
host town.
Yes.
Hannah,
50/50.
just because we submit the application does not
I know,
mean
but we
we're
can't turn
gonna
it down if they do.
True.
I'm going to count on you guys to make us break even. Yes.
There's no guarantee that,
It passes 5-1.
Okay, reports.
Okay,
Thanks, everybody.
thank you.
thank you, guys.
Thanks for your work through the years on
Turns
this
out
too,
that way,
Fred.
or else we don't get accepted.
Okay, any, where are my reports from? Oh, Council. Do you have anything, Tom?
No,
Someplace else?
all is well, Brad.
Okay, excellent.
I think the RAGBRAI's been enough.
Absolutely nothing.
I'm good, Mayor. Thank you.
I can think of several positives just from doing this. With the closing of a plant that we had 250 employees in, and people coming from anywhere from 12 to 19 countries that potentially could invest, are probably very wealthy if they come from a country and ride a bike across the state like Iowa. I think it's a foregone conclusion that it's a positive.
Catherine?
I do have a question. November 2nd, the Visioning in Ames. Is that going to be, are we carpooling to that? Do we have enough people? I need to kind of figure out if I'm,
Nothing has been decided at this point. I think we're going to talk about that at our meeting.
the next meeting?
We've got a meeting coming up on
Wednesday.
Wednesday of this week for that, and I know that
Okay.
there's other, Kim Hansen is in, and she'd like to go as long as there's another group going, so.
Yeah, I just thought if we were all carpooling, I would do what I could to.
Okay, I have a couple things in terms of announcements. Friday, October 27th, from 5 to 7 is the Boo Bash at the Falcon Civic Center,
What was that, Friday what?
the 1027. Thursday, the 26th, at 6:30 in the community room is the Iowa's First Free Library. That's the start of one of the programs. That's a historical, in terms of, for those that don't know, the City of Independence was the very first city library in the entire state of Iowa to have a free public library. It's a big deal. This is our 150th anniversary of it, and we've got events that are going on. And one of the first events is this Thursday at 6:30, where they'll be talking about the history of Independence and the library. October 31st is a Tuesday. That's the Halloween trick-or-treat citywide between 5 and 7. Saturday, November 4th, starting at 10 o'clock, is the Tribute to Our Past, the City Library History. We've got an exhibit opening up. If you want to hear me speak, don't come. No, I will actually. We've got some other people out there that we've invited, but if nobody else steps up, I will be speaking at that. Saturday, it'll be open the exhibit will be open from 10 to 4. Sunday, it'll be open from 1 to 4. Monday and Tuesday, it'll be open regular library hours, 9:30 to 8 on both days. Don't forget that November 7th is the election, city and school board. Also, you can still vote in person, absentee at the somebody's office.
Courthouse auditor.
At the courthouse in the auditor's office. I couldn't read my handwriting. And they're open from 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. So that's what I have. Matt?
We had some wiring redone in the room, so hopefully the audio is better tonight for tonight's meeting. I don't know if anybody's heard anything, but hopefully that's a major improvement over what we had.
Usually I get a complaint and I
Yeah,
don't
I
have
haven't
any.
heard anything. Yeah, I haven't heard
I
anything
usually
from
haven't
anybody,
heard
so
anything.
I'm hoping that's positive.
Brian, you were leaning back tonight. You weren't speaking into your microphone.
He was closer to
I
his
just
mic
wanted to
than
make
other
that.
council
Thank you.
members.
We did
Yeah.
I authorized purchasing code enforcement software for an expense of $4,500. This is it's out of our building code budget that we already had. We have another professional services line item in there, and we're using money out of that line item to do this. The intent or the purpose behind this is to keep better track of our code enforcement cases so we can make sure that we're staying on top of things and getting things resolved. We don't have any way of tracking those right now at all, so this is to help fix that problem. We're getting close in that same regard. We're getting close to having the building permits in that same system so that they will be more easily applied for online, more easy to keep on track of, on top of, more easy to work with. We have continued to have some discussions about Bremer Wall. I've got engineering estimates back from Crawford as well as from another firm to do monitoring of that wall for us to survey rather than just using the crack monitors that are there. We feel like the crack monitors may or may not necessarily be accurate because they're attached to the top of the wall as well as a piece of concrete sidewalk. If that concrete piece of sidewalk sinks, that crack monitor shows movement. Is that really the wall moving? We don't know that for sure. So rather than using that method, we're going to have it actually surveyed, have it done a couple times and just keep track of it and see if the wall actually is moving. Relatively low cost, less than a couple $1,000s. So it's not really that big of a expense, but something to keep an eye on rather than spending a bunch of money having engineering done to replace a wall when we don't know 100% that there's actually a problem. We want to make sure.
Sorry to interrupt you. Do we have a timeline in terms of when we might be able to reopen Bremer Park with the...
The intent is to have that done monitor it for at least a couple weeks, maybe even a full month, and then if we're not seeing movement, we'll reopen the wall and then continue monitoring the wall from there. Kind of see where we can go and then start looking for grants to do what we can do to replace it. I mean, if we're not seeing immediate movement in the wall, then we can start working towards a replacement rather than having to do an emergency project where it's a much higher expense. So trying to be prudent about how we spend that money and how we do that. Let's see, what else did I have? So a couple months ago, we applied for a rural housing readiness assessment grant through the state, through Iowa Economic Development Association, and through, that's through University of Iowa also. But we were notified that we were awarded that grant. That is a grant where we spend $5,000 to have a rural housing readiness assessment done, and in return, we get $10,000 for a rural housing project to put towards a project. So we're going to get started on that work. Happy to hear that that grant got awarded to us. There was 7 cities in the state of Iowa who were awarded that grant, so we were one of 7 for that. The incentive package that we talked about, was that last meeting? Related to the potential purchase of the old facility over there. The state of Iowa is upping their percentage. They're upping what they're putting into it. So that means our 20% is going to go up also. So we're now talking, instead of 200,000, we're talking about 300,000.
Where was this at? I'm sorry, the new facility.
We're talking about...
You talking about the movie theater?
No.
Tyson.
No, we're talking...
Oh, okay. The old Blue Buffalo building.
Blue Buffalo. Yeah.
So explain that a little bit better. If they
So
go
we had
up-
talked before about doing a $200,000 match because we have to match 20% of whatever the state grants to them for them to locate in that building. Now the state is talking about doing a $1.5 million instead of $1 million grant. So that means we would have to match 300,000 instead of 200,000. Now this can be in kind. It's not a cash outlay. One of the things that we're going to do is we're going to put an RFP out for engineering services. There's some storage drainage issues over there. And any work that we do on engineering to solve that or construction to solve that would go against that match. So we get the benefit of fixing a stormwater issue, but yet also counting towards that match for the High Quality Jobs Act. So it's a win-win on both sides, we feel like. So But I just wanted to let everybody know that that had changed, that that was going to happen.
And we're hoping that that's a significant enough incentive that the deal closes.
Yeah, 1.8 million would be a significant.
We're pretty confident that it's all moving in the right direction.
Good.
The only other thing I was going to mention, the Independence Band got first place in their competition last Saturday
Good.
Wow.
in their class, and second place overall out of everybody there.
Wow.
Wow.
So
Congratulations to them.
That's great.
What about the water fix in front of, on Main Street, in front of the
affordable
accounting
accounting.
office?
So I've talked with Travis about that, our utilities director. They're actually going to dig up on the south, I believe it's on the south side of the road, and actually cap that at the main. The last time they did work on it, they did it on the north side, and they didn't cap it at the main. They just, they went the quickest, easiest route, which is understandable, trying to spend as little as possible. But the more we've talked about it and the fact that we've had to do that more than once now, we're going to do what we need to dig it up in the street or wherever that main is at there. I think it's actually in the right of way in front of Hardiger on the south side there. Dig it up over there and cap it right at the main so that we don't continue to have this problem where we're chasing.
Is that going to happen
repairs.
pretty soon?
It should before winter, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Susie? Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.